What's up, everybody? I'm Michael Fielding, aka Simon, here with Tyler Olson,
AKA Teo.
Teo Zeo.
Teo Zeo.
I'm sitting in Conroe. He's in San Francisco.
I'm on the USF campus. It's a Jesuit school, so there's a nice fancy church.
Pretty cool. I'm at the Dinner Ranch.
Dinner Ranch. Trailer
Which is
great.
a nice little spot here.
Yeah. How's the weather?
Oh, it's pretty good. It's kind of looking rainy, but
Is
it
it
hasn't.
hot?
It's not too bad. It's a little bit humid, but actually, right now it's awesome. Earlier today, when I walked outside, even for like a couple minutes, I was pouring sweat. That's the shitty part.
Yeah, man. I'm getting used to it. Would have to. When we come in town on Thursday, it's gonna be tricky because we're gonna be probably leaving with pants on and long sleeve shirts, and then when we get there, we're gonna have to change into shorts.
Yep.
It's gonna be way too hot.
Oh yeah, I did that when I came back from your place, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Got off the plane in sweatpants and a jacket and pouring sweat as soon as we walked outside.
Yeah, and the thing is, the airplane stays really cold too. So
Right.
even if you were leaving from Houston, you would likely get cold on the plane.
Oh yeah. No, and same with buses. I always bring my long sleeves. Otherwise
Yeah,
I'm sitting there shivering.
right on.
So what
Well,
have you been thinking about lately, Tyler?
yeah. The first thing I was thinking about is how we hadn't done a Free Academy Live talk in a while, and so I wanted to get on here. And what I was thinking about in particular, maybe to sort of give a springboard for a little discussion. Hopefully,
Uh-huh.
we can keep it brief so that people aren't discouraged when they see an hour-long video. Um,
Totally.
some stuff that I've been thinking about is some stuff that you've been talking about lately, and I'm thinking in particular the idea that freedom requires some sort of constraints or something that puts a kind of like resistance up against us, some sort of system that we have to take for granted, right? Enable or like in order to enable our freedom.
Yeah, I thought of a good example for that earlier today.
Oh yeah.
How the freedom to jump comes from the restriction of gravity.
Yeah, right. Okay, so yeah, so it's as basic as that. So maybe first, because I was just reading a little bit of John Dewey, his book Experience in Nature. It's kind of like I don't know, the epitome of John Dewey's work, or it's kind of what one would refer you to if you asked, "Hey, what's John Dewey all about?" But I was reading and I came across a passage that made me think about sort of this freedom, sort of like the interplay between freedom and constraints and the relationship between the two. Um, and so, like, maybe we can withhold uh, turning this into a kind of a political like understanding of freedom just for a second, and then maybe we can take this and apply it to things like, I don't know, politics and the way that we organize bodies of people, and even things like I'm sure that we can apply it to things like relationships, just how one deals with oneself in general, and um, maintaining a sort of a I don't know, well-being or something like that. So here's this here's this short three-sentence passage from Dewey. It says, "The union of the hazardous and the stable, of the incomplete and the recurrent, is the condition of all experienced satisfaction as truly as of our predicaments and problems, while it is the source of ignorance, error, and failure of expectation. It is the source of the delight which fulfillments bring. For if there were nothing in the way, if there were no deviations and resistances, fulfillment would be at once, and in being so would fulfill nothing, but merely be. So what stuck out there is this phrase where he says, for if there were nothing in the way, if there were no deviations and resistances, fulfillment would be at once, and in being so would fulfill nothing, but merely be. So it's a pretty common sense idea, and by that I mean it's an idea that makes sense to pretty much everyone when they think about it, right? Or when it's brought to their attention, that if there was nothing in the way, then we wouldn't be able to feel fulfilled about something, right? Sort of you can't feel accomplished in winning a race, let's say, if there aren't competitors against you, right? Or
Right.
you can't
It
feel as if
reminds me of Adventure Time when Jake the dog, who can like expand to any shape and basically reach out and do whatever he wants at any moment, and he's like struggling to do something. Oh, he's struggling to get a chip out of his tooth, and BMO's like, "Well, why don't you just turn really big and let the chip fall out, and then you can shrink back?" And Jake's like, well, if we got everything we wanted whenever we wanted it, well, then what would be the point of getting it?
right, exactly, because if you could, right, if you were a genie and you could get anything that you wanted at any point in time, it's arguably unsatisfactory, right? The feeling that you would be left with because you could have it at any point in time. So it seems like the feeling of being fulfilled only comes in relation to having things in the way, some sort of obstacle, right? And Dewey's whole point there, right? There's this whole context in which he says that, um, and his whole idea is that life is full of struggles and it's full of resistance, and we shouldn't ignore that, or probably even stronger, we shouldn't think that we can ever like overcome it and just settle with complete perfection or complete utopia, because then at that point it's not even, I guess you could say, notionally possible, right? Because it seems like utopia only makes sense in relation to a world that is, I don't know, imperfect or something like that, right?
Yeah, it kind of strikes me like the concept of yin and yang, and how you can't have white without black, and you can't have happy without sad, or good without bad. It's like we're defining, or they're co-defining like each side of these coins. Like you can't have the coin without one side and the other side, so
Right.
they require each other.
And speaking of coins, the same is true of things like money, right? Money is only valuable insofar as I don't know, there are people without it, right? Or there has to be some sort of incentive to sort of gain it, right?
Right, people have to want it.
Right, and if it was achieved by everybody at the same level, then it would likely not hold any value. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, no, you have to want it, but nobody wants it just because of itself. They want it because they think everyone else wants it. So you have to want it because you want to get rid of it later. It's the only reason to desire money, is to try to get rid of it later.
Right. So it's this sort of like oscillation between having it and not having it, and that's kind of wrapped up in why it's valuable for you. And I think that why it's useful to think about this stuff in this way is because you can apply it to basic human psychology, and you can apply it to things like relationships. Just for example, to pull out a personal anecdote or something. I've found myself lately, or maybe since I graduated and I haven't been teaching, I'm like, oh man, I don't feel very fulfilled, right? It's because I was at this peak when I was teaching and I was really digging it, and I had all this free time because my only concerns were attending seminars and sort of going in front of a class of students and sort of getting to do what I wanted in my free time, and right. So then I've been like struggling with, oh, I don't feel fulfilled. But I think it's important to recognize that maybe I only felt fulfilled because there are troughs like this in our lives, right? I
Yeah.
don't know how valuable those moments would be if it just remained the same. I don't think that you would be on such a high if they remained the same. And I think that that's why we see this picture of old people that are very set in their ways, right? They don't seem exuberantly happy, right? It's because they're just maintaining this sort of um, middle position, they're not going through these peaks and troughs. And so the same is true of relationships. You often find struggles in your intimate relationships, because it seems like we always have this abstract, like, oh, things like if this was like that, then it would just be perfect, or if this was like that, then it would just be perfect. But I don't think that that's what's best for us, right? I think that we're most in love when we find certain deficiencies in ourselves or in like other people, right? Because one, when we find them in ourselves, it makes us work harder, and it sort of gives us something to work on, gives us room to grow. And then when you're dealing with it with the other person, it's you can just treat it as these troughs, right? That sort of help you feel ecstatic when I don't know, when things
When things are good.
right. So it's like
Yeah,
I
totally.
don't think that we can achieve healthy relationships with people if we don't have a little bit of dissonance there. There has to be that yin and yang aspect of the relationship. And I mean, like, you can start applying it to whatever facet of life.
Yeah. No, I dig it, man. I don't know. I was just having fun listening. I kind of didn't
Yeah.
even think of a response.
No,
Um,
no response needed. Like, I think my
I
phone
guess we can
died
cut it
anyway.
here. So
Oh,
I
I'm
keep
on.
it short.
Say it again.
You want to cut it right here and keep it short?
Yeah, because my phone's on 1% anyway. So.
All right. Well, take it easy, buddy. Looking forward to seeing you on Thursday and your show this weekend, and burning down a house when we come back to the Jenner Ranch. And anyways, see you soon.
All right, man. Peace.
Thank you.